Welcome to Retire Your Way. I'm 𝗵𝗶𝘀𝘀 here with 𝗵𝗶𝘀𝘀𝗀. Ben, how we doing today?
Rob, I'm doing fantastic, man. Honored to have you here. I know you're an expert in our field, and man, it's just it's a privilege.
After what happened last time, I'm surprised you invited me back to the second show. So, no, I appreciate you having me here, man. We've got a lot of important stuff to talk about. There's so much going on right now economically, and there's a lot at stake. We've got the biggest group of people retiring ever in history, right, with the boomer generation, and there's a lot of money out there saved in qualified accounts, and you actually got this segment titled "We're Making History." What do we? That sounds awesome. That sounds exciting. What are we talking about?
We all want to make history, right?
Right.
This is not a good making history.
Okay,
this is a bad making history.
Let's hear about it.
Well, I mean, in the past, obviously, we're talking about a situation where nothing is really working the way that it's supposed to when it comes to the market. We have, both the stock market and the bond market down double digits right now, and typically those things work inversely to each other.
Right. What you're saying is typically when equities or your stocks are up, bonds are down, and when bonds are up, stocks are down. And that's why people design a 60-40 portfolio, right?
Exactly.
Well, what's happening right now?
Well, right now, both are crashing because bonds are inversely related to interest rates. So as interest rates go up, the bond market's being hurt. Why? Because inflation's out of control. So they're trying to create a bridge of how do we bring this inflationary rate back down? They're trying to tighten up money policy.
Yeah.
And that's creating issues, obviously, on the volatility side or the market-based side of things. And so if you have 60% in stocks and 40% in bonds, and both are dropping, what do you do?
Well, that's why we have to be careful who we get our information from, because when you turn on the news, they try to paint a picture of it looking better than it actually does, because they're selling something, right? They're either selling re-election or they're working for a big firm that's managing assets and they don't want to lose assets. So always think about what their interest is when you get information from somebody, because what's going on right now is terrifying. It really is. And the 60-40 portfolio came about as an answer to another market downturn at another time. We always come out with these bulletproof, easy button ways to get through retirement. And what's the truth of the matter, Ben?
We go back in history to take a look at stuff that happened in the past, but we don't know what's happening in the future. And folks, we've been in this upmarket for 14 years. It's more than double or 2.5 times a normal upmarket. And the fact of the matter is it's given us a confidence that everything's going to bounce back. And yes, we had the flash crash in 2020 with the COVID situation, and it blipped on us, and then it came back. And so it's given investors a false sense of confidence. We've got lots of folks out there that are like, hey, I can figure this out on my own, because when the market's going up, everybody's doing great and everybody's an expert. It's when things shift where strategy ultimately makes the difference, and that's where experts in the field come into play.
You're right. Any of your kids, my 7-year-old could have been a winner over the last 14 years. These guys that are the do-it-yourselfers, even money managers, were patting themselves on the back, and now everybody's sucking wind saying, what the heck happened here, right?
And that's why we don't look at one style of acting money management inside of our world with people. And so maybe you have the 60-40. Great. Over time, has it proven to be successful? Sure. Right now, not so good, right? What about rebalancing portfolios? Or you also have technical and fundamental analysis people out there. You also have things like, sector rotations. And we have, algorithmic-based stuff where they use algorithms to kind of drive the decisions. And so when you look at adding strategy, when we add multiple different perspectives, these are experts out there called money managers, when we add strategy to it, when we do that, it's like the difference of having passive cruise control in your car and adaptive cruise control in your car. Now, I want you to think about this for a second, because this is extremely important. Think about your risk portfolio for a second. If you had somebody at the wheel, the technology in that vehicle, and when a hazard came, it automatically slowed you down so you didn't get hurt as much, and when the coast was clear, it sped you up. Is that something that you think you might want? Because that's important. That helps you win over time. But that's on our growth money, Rob.
Well, the funny thing is, and I think that, that makes another point, these people that won and won and won, they might not have known what their true appetite for risk was, because it changes, right?
Sure does.
And as you're winning and winning, you get more aggressive with it, right? But you might not know how that looks in the big picture of things. How much risk am I really taking on? And what am I, what could I possibly lose if the market turns the other way? And people were only looking at the wins. They weren't looking at, what could potentially happen down the road.
Well, and I've gone through this, and so most of you guys know my story, but if you don't, I was in college. Grandma passed away, left us an inheritance, and we invested it with an advisor, and we lost almost all of it. Why? We weren't painted an expectation. And so when you do it yourself, you don't have access to some of the tools. So there's actually a risk speed that every asset class travels in the market, Rob, and you know this. But the thing is that we have been simplified in society today to say, are you conservative? Are you moderate? Are you aggressive? And nobody really knows what the heck that means.
And we act like it's a static state, like you're there forever. And the truth of the matter is, your risk profile is going to change based on the economic environment we're in. So when we're winning, you feel that sense of confidence, right? We can't be beat. And you're probably going to be more aggressive during those times. They say that people naturally get more conservative as they get older. Your risk profile changes. How many times do people's advisors call them in and say, hey, you know, you're getting a little bit older, the economic environment's changed, we need to see what your risk profile looks today. Does anybody ever come in and tell you that their advisor is doing that for them?
Not really.
They should be.
They should be. It should be standard. This should be easy stuff.
Heat checks all the time, right?
Like you should know stuff like this. Like, what's your maximum drawdown in your portfolio? How many points does it diversify away based on your correlation? You should know what your fees are. You should know what your dividends are, what your potential annual rate of return is, and you should know your upside and downside capture based on like a stock market index. If you don't know those things, what are we paying somebody for?
Right. And if your advisor's not engaged explaining this stuff to you and just saying, when you call in, they're just saying, hey, I know your account's down, but it'll come back, just hang on. That guy doesn't have a plan.
No, and that's not a strategy at all. I mean, look at it.
Hang on. Is it a strategy?
You brought up a good point, too, and I don't want people to miss this, right? Our appetite for risk changes as we age. It's kind of like this, you know, I'm in my 40s now, right? We're not going to say how old Ben is now, but at the end of the day, right, we live in, you know, Illinois down the street from Six Flags. Well, Six Flags is great. I got kids from 18 down to 3, and the fact is they want to go ride roller coasters. You know, me riding roller coasters today leaves me feeling with my equilibrium off like I want to vomit. So maybe you don't want to be on the roller coaster, but you don't know the difference. There are asset classes, folks. There's 3 ways you can grow money. You can grow it in volatility, and we have the best active money managers for strategy to mitigate your risk.
Well, so if somebody is doing it on their own, even if they have an advisor and they don't know where they stand and what their risk profile truly is, how would they figure it out for themselves?
Man, without having access to the information and the technology that we have, you're guessing. It's hypothetical. You have to be able to go in and you have to be able to dig into the detail of that. And that's the technology that we have today. You can't even probably do that on your own.
So go get your CFP or Series 65 and maybe you could figure it out.
I mean, you could go get your license, but is that what you want to do in retirement? Or if you don't understand your risk, even more importantly, Rob, and that's where you're taking your income from, and we've had this false sense of security. Let me ask you a question. Your portfolio is down maybe 20 to 30%, depending on what it's modeled behind. Are you cutting 20 to 30% of your lifestyle out?
Who wants to cut away from their retirement plan in a time when they've saved and worked and planned to do things that they've always wanted to do? Who wants to cut that stuff out? Actually, Ben, I think that's a good segue into break here. Tell the audience what we have for them here.
Yeah, so what we're going to do is offer you a retirement readiness review. Now, you can click the QR code at the bottom, take your phone out, take a look at it. That'll pull you right into a page where you can do a confidence assessment of what you have going on to see if you're retirement ready and book an appointment there. You can also call us at 855-855-7655. And what we're going to do is give you a retirement readiness review, plus we're going to take a look at a risk map for you, okay? Now, call that number. Don't just survive in retirement, folks. Thrive.
Awesome. Hey, join us when we get back from break here. The next segment is titled Risky Business. We're going to stay in the same vein of conversation and talk about risk. See you in a few minutes.
Call 855-855-7655 for your own complimentary retirement readiness review and risk report. Why take unnecessary risk when you don't have to? At 65 years old, would you drive to the grocery store at 100 miles per hour if 40 miles per hour would get you there safely? When nearing retirement, are you still driving your investment accounts like you're in your 30s or 40s? Have you changed your investment election since you first chose them in your retirement accounts at work? Call Ben and his team at 855-855-7655 for your own complimentary retirement readiness review and risk report. Do you know exactly how much risk you are taking in your investment accounts? Now that you've accumulated a nest egg for retirement, you want to be certain the risk you're taking in those investments matches your goals and objectives. Call Ben and his team now at 855-855-7655 for your own complimentary retirement readiness review and risk report, or use the QR code below to begin scheduling your appointment. You may not have time to recover from taking too much risk.
Welcome back to Retire Your Way. I'm Rob Hrdig here with Ben Heiser. Ben.
Rob,
This one's called risky business. What are we talking about? More risk, huh?
Well, we're just talking about the fact that really people don't understand the level of risk that they're taking inside of their portfolios and really the other options that they might have.
You know, so in law and in medicine, there's something called a term of art. Do you know what a term of art is?
Rob, let's enlighten us.
Yeah, so a term of art is this. A legal definition means the same thing from California to New York. A medical definition means the same thing from California to New York.
Yeah.
No matter where you go in between, those terms mean the same thing everywhere. It's called a term of art. Wouldn't you think that our industry would need something like that?
You would think so.
Wouldn't you think something like risk would be a term of art where
Yes.
everybody agreed and said, this is what risk means, and this is what it does, and these are the levels of risk? Do you think that would be important?
I think it would be, and I think that it would really help kind of alleviate some of the fears and stress that people have. So when they understand the risk that they're taking, they know, okay, hey, I'm okay with having my portfolio lose 10 or 15%. They're not stuck in a band of conservative or moderate, where moderate is, we know there's a risk speed between 1 and 99. The faster you're driving, the more risk you're taking. The slower you're driving, the less risk you're taking. But you know what a moderate band is? So you could sit there and say, I'm 35 to 70. Well, do you know what that means? That max drawdown or loss potential in your portfolio is somewhere between 15 and 40%. That's a big stinking range. And it's why people get frustrated, because it's like, hey, I lost more than I thought. I thought I was conservative, but I lost 30%.
Right. So if the people in the audience want to test this theory, go call 5 financial advisors and ask each individual one what risk means to them. And just sit back and listen. Hear what they say to you. And so what really concerns me is it's not just financial advisors that have different definitions of risk. It's firms that have different definitions of risk. And most importantly, the majority of the time, the financial advisor and the client have different definitions of risk.
Oh, man.
If that guy is supposed to be on your team and supposed to be your quarterback, shouldn't you be aligned when it comes to risk and how that risk is going to impact your portfolio and your retirement plan?
Well, and you're making a good point too, and what we're talking about is risk in the market, but there's different layers of risk too. I would ask the question, if someone's doing what's in your best interest and they don't offer every asset class that's available to you, how can they truly do what's in your best interest if they're just focusing in one spot? That is a dangerous game to play, and it ultimately impacts you. Because here's the thing, the steps backwards in the market in retirement, if that's where you're generating your income, when you're consuming in retirement. It's different when we're saving and offsetting our losses by dollar cost averaging. Rob, the best investment strategy in the world is dollar cost averaging. That's a growth strategy.
Yeah. So Ben, I've got a story to share, but I want to ask you something. With all these people that you're seeing here, and I know that there's been an uptick because of the market volatility and people are concerned. How many examples of people not being in alignment with their financial advisor have you seen? Do you see people that come in and they've lost way more money than they ever thought they could lose?
Well, and here's the thing too, people get frozen.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've lost more than we should do, but now we have to stay, don't we? I don't know, do you? Maybe you need a more well-placed portfolio that diversifies away your risk. Maybe you still want to be in the market because you can afford that. Or maybe you're like someone that we just met with the other day. They came in, they had saved a couple $1 million, Rob, and we were able to take a look at the risk that they have in their portfolios, and we were able to help them understand it. Now, they were traveling way faster from a risk speed perspective than they felt comfortable with. You know what that means? It means that when things go bad, you're going to lose more. Yeah. Well, I also run into people that are traveling too slow, and they're traveling too slow. So when the market's going up, they feel like they're missing out. And so that's the challenge that you run into when you get put into a cookie cutter approach, and it's not custom tailored to you.
So this is an extreme example, but as we told people in the last show, I work with financial advisors all over the country. It practices, independent practices, guys that aren't beholden to anybody, that can use any product, any money manager, any insurance carrier they want to. And I had a guy that's in the Midwest that I do business with, and he had some prospects come in that were working with another financial advisor, and these people were almost 70 years old, and they just suffered a loss that was over 50% of their portfolio. Now, when he runs a report called the Riskalyze report, and the lower the score on a Riskalyze report, the more conservative somebody is. These people's score was 24. And the person that had them invested in some of the most aggressive stuff you could be in at that age. So also like your clients, these folks had $2 million, and right now they have a little under $1 million. And this guy's going back to work at 70 years old. That sounds delightful.
Yeah, I mean, and so there's two options that you have, right? You just cut out 12 years of your retirement lifestyle because you're supposed to live off of 4%. Well, that's a whole nother deal. Or you have to cut 50% of your retirement dream out because guess what? Your paycheck and your paycheck now just got affected by where your money is.
Well, you talked about the 4% rule. That 4% rule, if I just lost half my assets, it's the 8% rule.
Yeah.
How long does an 8% withdrawal rate last in your portfolio?
It's not going to be very long.
Put the numbers to it, see what that looks like.
Yeah.
It's really terrifying, Ben. And the problem is, with so many definitions out there and so many people with different opinions, there is no cohesiveness, and there really is no place to, even if you go online, you're going to get a difference of opinion everywhere you go. And I know the way you look at risk.
Oh, yeah.
And it's very, very simple. And I like it. I think it's the best definition that you can possibly have. Now, there's varying levels of risk, correct? But the way you look at it is what?
Yeah, so I mean, I look at risk as a perspective of what's the maximum drawdown that somebody can have in their portfolio, and are we positioning your assets in a way and having strategies so that you can do that? So again, we use active money managers. It's like adaptive cruise control in a car. It's going to slow you down and speed you up, but that's for the money that you're going to be designing for growth in retirement. The money that you need for income, the market is not even designed for because it's going to change your lifestyle. Hey, when the market's going up, doesn't change. Think about it like this. Market's at an all-time high and it goes up 10 more percent. Does that change your lifestyle in retirement? No. But if you're taking your money from the market and it drops 50%, does that change your lifestyle? We all know that the answer is yes. Folks, this is a challenge and you deserve to know. So when you call us, we will help you walk through this. We give you a retirement readiness review. We'll do a risk analysis and a report for you so we know exactly the speed that you're traveling in your portfolio, the risk that you're taking, and then we can look at strategies on how to diversify or eliminate that risk. And if you need income, right now there's some great products that will give you bonuses to maybe offset what you've lost this year.
Before the segment we were talking about risk, and we said if you can lose money from an account, there's risk associated with it. It may be a varying level of risk, but there's risk associated with it. So what was the offer for the audience here? I think we're going to break right now.
Yeah, so we have our retirement readiness review, folks. Don't survive, thrive in retirement. Give us a call today, 855-855-7655, and claim your retirement readiness review, a meeting, and your risk analysis.
Join us when we come back. We're going to talk about an article that was recently published in Fortune magazine. We'll see you in a minute. Bye-bye.
Call 855-855-7655 for your own complimentary retirement readiness review and risk report. Why take unnecessary risk when you don't have to? When nearing retirement, are you still driving your investment accounts like you were in your 30s or 40s? Have you changed your investment election since you first chose them? Do you truly understand the risk associated with your investments? Call Ben and his team at 855-855-7655 for your own complimentary retirement readiness review and risk report. Do you know exactly how much risk you're taking in your investment accounts? Now that you've accumulated a nest egg for retirement, you want to be certain the risk you're taking in those investments matches your goals and objectives. Call Ben and his team now at 855-855-7655 for your own complimentary retirement readiness review and risk report, or use the QR code below to begin scheduling your appointment. You may not have time to recover from taking too much risk.
Welcome back to Retire Your Way. I'm 𝗵𝗶𝘀𝘀 here with Ben Heiser.
Rob, it's great to be here with you. Your expertise is really shining through. I'm sure people are getting lots of value.
I love when you say nice things about me. Keep it up. Keep it up. No, I'm glad to be here. And this whole show, we've been talking about risk, right? And I think that this last segment, it falls in that same conversation. We were talking about an article in Fortune magazine that just came out a couple days ago. And the premise of the article was they polled a bunch of Fortune 500 CEOs, and 90% of them were bearish on the economy.
Yep.
So 90% of them thought it was extremely bearish on the economy. 40% of them said that they foresee layoffs. And so what we were talking about is a lot of these people out here that are on the cusp of retirement or recently retired. Actually, we're going to talk about the ones that are on the cusp because they're still working. They've already lost 20 to 40% of their portfolio. Yep. Now they're going to lose their job. So they just got kicked in the stomach twice. And what we were talking about is not letting two bad things that happen to you turn into more bad things. And so explain to the audience what we meant by that.
Yes, I mean, you're taking a decision right now, right? we've got losses in our portfolio, and then if you're forced into retirement, that's a double whammy, right? It's like a snowball. It starts out small, and then it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and then it becomes something that's dangerous.
Yeah.
And so what we want to be careful of is, especially when we're talking about risk, how does that impact your lifestyle? So we're talking about when you get to retirement, when you've won the game of life, right? Have you guys played the board game of life? I have, our family does, right? This is good stuff. And so when you get to the end of that game, you're in the retirement world, right? Yeah. And so what we know, because we specialize in this space, when you're 10 years from retirement or you're already retired, what we focus on helping people do is eliminate the #1 fear in America. And so, Rob, you brought up an article. There was another article written just this year that people fear running out of money today more than they even fear death.
Well, it would be like a living death, right? Not being able to do the things you want to do, take care of the people you want to take care of. Can you think of anything scarier than that?
No, so that's why we know that, folks, it's not this whole illusion that we're taught that when you retire, all of a sudden your expenses are a lot lower. That's not what we find, because that's your fixed expenses might be a little bit lower. But then when you add in every day is a Saturday, and you add in your lifestyle goals and dreams, the stuff like, what do you want to do from a travel perspective? How do you want to look at entertainment? Then you take a look at all of these different areas. What are your hobbies, right? Golf costs money,
yeah.
right? Knitting costs money. Gardening costs money. These are all things that, maybe we don't think about when our paycheck's a lot bigger. And so we got to add in the play check to our world.
Well, the funny thing, I know we're not talking about inflation here, but I would venture to guess, based on what you just said, inflation is not an equal opportunity offender. The people that have plans to do stuff in retirement, I've got numbers right down here on inflation numbers for the year. You know which ones were affected the highest? The extras, right? The travel, right? The cars, things of that nature, hotels, those things are up massively. So inflation as a whole might be at 8.6, 8.4%, but the people that want to do stuff in retirement, it's affecting them at a much higher rate. But the thing is, they don't have to be a victim here. Nobody has to be a victim. If you choose to sit idly, then, so be it, right?
Yeah, and so, we talk about this all the time. Folks, this isn't your responsibility. This is not what you went to school for. It's not what you worked hard for. You've done everything correct. All you've done is you've worked, you put money aside, you've dealt with the cards that have been played, you've shrunk up so that when you get to retirement, you're not compromising. And we know that there's go-go years and slow-go years and no-go years, and we want you to enjoy the years when your health is the best, you can have the most amount of fun, and we're not compromising those things. But oftentimes, it's not a reduction of a need for income, it's an expansion of a need for income. So when you add those lifestyle goals and dreams to our fixed expenses, we need to cater that. And then it's retiring your way. But how do we guarantee that paycheck so that we have certainty we're not using the wrong asset class like the market, that our income is going to fluctuate? What percentage of your lifestyle are you okay with losing in the market in retirement?
There seems to be a paralysis, right, when it comes to loss and what people are willing to take, and people will just sit through it. And I've got a personal story to share. My mom retired from a big pharmaceutical company 4 or 5 years ago, and before that, she taught for 20 years. And she was able to, on her own, save a couple $1 million. And I try not to involve myself in family finances. But I looked at her statements when she was retiring, and her financial advisor had her position in all individual stocks. And for a woman that was almost 70 years old, she didn't have that appetite for risk. You know what she looked at me and said? This stuff is confusing. And this is a woman who has a master's degree and saved a few $1 million. And there's a lot of people that feel just like her out there. There's a paralysis because you don't know what's going on. Hey, you don't have to be a victim. I nudged my mom off the edge, and I introduced her to a couple financial advisors, and I let her pick, from those advisors. But you don't have to be that person in that situation. Don't be a victim. There's a lot of smart people out there that feel the exact same way that you do. You're not the only person out there feeling this. And I would say, if you have qualified accounts of any type, you need to go meet with somebody. Meet with your advisor and go talk to some other advisors too. Because like you said earlier, you said you can't get a second opinion from the guy that gave you the first, right?
It's so true, but you're speaking to something even more important. Like, look, I don't know pharmacists. I don't know the pharmacy industry, like the pharmaceutical world, where the pharmacists are back there, taking the molecular structure of whatever it is that you need to solve a health problem for you. And it doesn't make us not intelligent because we don't know the molecular structure. So the big thing is, and what we're passionate about doing is, empowering you listeners with the information that you deserve to know to empower you to be able to retire your way. We want to set the clear expectations for you, but you got to know the good and you got to know the impacts or the bad that can potentially happen for you so that you know the pros and cons. Once you know the pros and cons, we can start to build things together, but it starts with understanding the need that you have in your income.
Yeah.
That's your fixed expenses, plus the extracurriculars that we want to do, and every day is a Saturday, because, you know, Rob, you and I still work.
Right.
When do you spend more money? The weekend or during the work week?
The weekend, for sure.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, you're paying somebody. If you have an advisor, you're paying somebody to do this job for you. You shouldn't have to be able to read charts. You shouldn't have to go out and get your Series 65 or your CFP to be able to understand what you own and how it impacts you. What should you be able to do?
Well, I mean, here's the thing. You should be able to go enjoy. Our job is to worry about the strategy behind your money to make sure you don't outlive it. Your job is to go enjoy your retirement. Your job is to go spend money. How about that? How about we have you spend money? You don't have to stress about running out of it. And then on top of that, we can have you save some money and grow it over time. If that sounds like something that you would like to have, maybe there's a shift that needs to happen. This is up to you. Look, there's a choice that you have to make in everything that you do. So keep in mind that in the end, the choice that you make makes you. So a second opinion is not something that we get from the first person, because the first person, if you don't like what's going on, yeah, everyone always wants to do it. It's kind of like breaking up, you know, with a girlfriend back in high school or junior high or something, or maybe a boyfriend, right? And the reality is all of a sudden they come back and they want to do all the things that they never did.
Yeah, I didn't mean
Don't
it.
do that.
Actually, we're going to break. Actually, we're going to the end of the show here. Randy's in my ear saying we're out of time.
Oh man, all right, so here's what we're gonna offer, folks. If you're serious about retirement, there's a retirement readiness review waiting on the other side of the phone. You gotta call 855-855-7655. We'll do a risk analysis. We'll make sure that there's no other hazards necessary that are gonna impact your retirement dream. Folks, don't just survive, thrive in retirement. Call the phone number today. Let's connect and help you retire your way.
Thanks for joining us today. Thanks, Ben, for having me. I appreciate it. Join us again here on Retire Your Way. Thank you.